secure it, lock it up. If you see anything suspicious, please report it. And then finally for West is fraud. Some of this has to do with stolen wallets and purses. A portion of it has to do with friends and relatives of the victim taking advantage of financial materials, but we've had a rise in fraud both in West, East, and South due to card skimmers. And so though the cases are East, West, and South, these are where the cards are being used, the fraud cases, not necessarily where the information is being retrieved. So wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, check the card reader, wiggle it if it's there, and be cautious. Next in North. One of the main things I want to point out in North is residential burglary north of downtown, particularly around Merriman Ave, within a half a mile of Merriman Ave. The main point of entry for these residential burglaries has been the window. We know that as the season warms, we have more open windows. We expect that, but if you see something suspicious, encourage people to report it. Theft is the second issue, particularly in the 5 Points neighborhood and in the Grace neighborhood. These are mostly bikes or one-wheel materials, property taken from the front porches or lawns. And finally, motor vehicle B&Es, and these are predominantly in the Montfort neighborhood, around Cortland Ave, or Cumberland Ave, or Montfort Ave. Moving on to Central. As per usual, most of the criminal activity in Central is downtown. The one thing I just wanted to focus on here was simple assaults. Most of it downtown, around Biltmore Ave, east of Biltmore Ave, around Pritchard Park, and then down Ashland Ave around the hotspot. Property crime is typical for that region. For East, motor vehicle B&Es have a substantial increase, overwhelmingly along Tunnel Road and South Tunnel Road, as that log of property crime shows. It is though bleeding over into adjacent residential areas, so Kenilworth and Oakley neighborhoods. And then I wanted to point out 2 violent hotspots you see there. One of which is around Spruce Hills. We have reported rape, reported common robbery, and reported assaults. And then hotspot around the hotels on South Tunnel Road. We had a series of assaults and gun shooting in that location as well. And then finally, in South Asheville, predominantly stolen vehicles across the entire district. These are spread out throughout the region, but more B&Es as you move further south. And then I want to highlight just 3 hotspots. The property hotspot in Millsgrat Road, you see there in the middle. That's commercial burglary, motor vehicle B&E theft, fraud, and shoplifting, all clustered around the Millsgrat area. I know myself representatives in here, but Walmart on Airport Road, and then violent crime is concentrated with assaults, hit and run, and shooting in Shiloh. So the main theme, our main concern right now is the level of gun violence that we're seeing across the city. Any other questions?
I have a question on, I tried to look before I came over here today when I was thinking about it. When, these are obviously when all the police reports are filed, incidences where police reports are filed. On the open data portal or any of the data you pull, you also have the statistics for consent searches. Is that logged in any way that the public can go through the open data portal, or can that be included in future?
Well, the traffic stuff that you talked about.
Yeah,
it's in now.
Yeah, I'm just saying, can we somehow include that too? It'd be nice to maybe, for some people to see like hotspots on the map, be able to see that in the future. Is that something?
So that data, the traffic stop data that's available in the open data portal is it a quarterly report? It's a quarterly report, so we wouldn't have, like the open data portal would be representative of current, like it's not up to date to today. Because of the way those reports are done and because of the way we do the reporting there, it's not compiled till a quarter later. Does that make sense? So Douglas would be able to provide you like current numbers for this month.
Why logistics question, why is it compiled differently versus?
This is different recording system. This is, you're pulling this from RMS.
Oh, no, this is from, Accurate. Yeah, it's the same class categories as
So
what's.
this, we pulling this out of Accurate, which the information is accurate, but we don't use Accurate to pull the traffic stop information, correct?
No, but it is available on that open portal.
Right, yeah, it's just older, it's not more up to date as this kind of data is on here.
The accurate data is the same, well, Douglas sees a different view of it, but if you go on the community crime map, that's what's feeding the community crime map.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm just curious, I know that's, looking at all the crime maps and, looking at the traffic stop data, just, questions I've had around it is like, where is the differences in those and how they're reported?
Yes,
And
and
why
that
we
is
can't see
something,
that live.
that is something that we've talked to chief and staff on, looking to see if there's some type of quarterly report we might be able to prepare. I would not want to do that into an additional report here on a monthly basis, because that's what pulling the other stuff on a quarterly basis, so that's what we're talking to chief.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe, I think, so much, a lot of it's driven by our society and data-driven societies that we're used to information on demand. So I think, when people see the discrepancies between, quarterly data and then you get to data like this, which is more up to date, people, it just brings up questions, not necessarily if there's an agenda or a reason, it could be logistics. But just helping to explain that helps, and then thoughts about maybe things that people would like to see is more timely data. So, thank you.
I'll have something to add to that. I would like to see as far as domestic violence, statistics, because, not everyone that does see domestic violence lives in housing. Because it really doesn't end in a certain type of case. And children sometimes are involved and killed. So we need to know, exactly what's going on, where, and where we can look to get help, to these people.
Anyone else?
There was on the east side, there was a meeting last night on crime and safety, about 100 people showed up. And it looked, from the discussion in the room, the CRO was there and along with the supervising person, they gave us a lot of information. And it appeared to be there was some kind of uptick going on in May in that area, regarding either speeding or more people in the parking lot than are normally there. The question came up because we did have the manager, two people who are managers of apartment houses in the Hawk Creek area, that I don't know if the relocation of people from Lee Walker Heights is going on yet, but all of a sudden they saw like an increase of a third of cars, which they don't believe there are people who live there. And I didn't know if you see anything, because we're looking at April, and I didn't know if you see anything in May, because they had the current data last night, which was up to date as of yesterday.
Oh, yeah, but we're looking at April, May here. too.
We're looking at May.
Yeah.
Okay, because there just seemed to be a lot of discussion going on about that, and the request was, help from us, and the question came up, I'll bring this up to you, put it on the table now, is that if that is happening, if we're in the process of, trying to relocate people, if they're in, Lee Walker Heights, or a place like that, that's housing authority. If a person is then brought into Section 8 while they're redoing whatever they're doing in areas, is that still housing, do those people come under housing authority, or do they come under, who allows the managers to help them, who helps the managers of these buildings? Because they're not, evidently, for this particular area, they were like looking for help from anybody, they were being kind of overwhelmed with some problems that came up last night.
Well, I can speak to at least the Lee Walker part of that. So the
very congested area for where this is. I mean, they pack the houses together, and who knows what's going on. So that's a helpful piece of information.
What location?
This is at where 70 and Newhall Creek Road come together, and it's that whole area that's up where Bouchon's is gonna be, and Dillingham Road. And there's just been a whole bunch of activities. Mail has started to be stolen on, they people come and all the doors are open, the mailboxes when they get home. And so it's just activity happening, and they were good last night. I mean, it was a good meeting, and the CRO really addressed things. And I'd really like to compliment him, because he has the ability to say, I don't know, but I will find out for you. And that's a real good skill set to have for somebody in that position. Because
Fairly new, I think he just started a couple
Yeah.
months.
he was great.
Just a good Baker district.
And the lieutenant, she was just, the two of them together were a good tag team match. So, I kind of blended in a couple
That's
of
what I say, I think that's also some regional.
Yes, it's just, it certainly doesn't rise to the occasion, but there have been several arrests in that area that call for service, coming into that area.
And I apologize, the traffic stop data is just a month behind on the open data portal. So it's just 30 days behind.
So it is on.
Yeah, it's not quarterly, it's just 30 days behind. So I apologize for that.
We might submit that.
I think we submitted to the state quarter, but we make it available on the open data portal 30 days after the close of the month, so it's 1 month behind.
And that platform does allow it to be visualized, so you can see where it's occurring.
And there is, one of the tabs in there is, consent by code, consent searches is listed under the traffic stop data.
Is there, with the consent searches, is there, what's the policy right now with that? Is there like a monitor it and then have an analysis of where the data's leading, like if the numbers go up or down? What do you do with that data after you log it and view it? I mean, is it part of our review process? What's the official APD stance on that?
So, if there's issues or problems, then of course we look at it, but this is rather police work, and the officers are following up with policies and procedures, it's not something we go review or see at. So with that, we're still doing, business as normal, and if there is an issue that pops up, or we identify, we go back in and we look at it, and that's the purpose of having it, for us to go back and forth also.
Okay, so you're not looking at like we are doing more searches or more traffic stops or less? It's just, if it leads to something else, is that?
Yeah, done the audit process, yeah.
So every month they're days behind, so by the, between the first of the month and the 10th of the month, we pull the traffic stop data from the previous month of the county consent search were done. And then the direct supervisor for the person who conducted the consent search is tasked with reviewing anybody on camera video and all that kind of stuff, see those consent data more with the name, what was reported from the phone. Then we have to fill out a form reporting our findings as to what happened. Was the traffic stop report form accurate to what we reviewed? Generally, the body worn camera video, incident reporting, property management, somebody does a consent search, we can see was contraband found, was it dealt with appropriately, was it documented appropriately, all that kind of stuff. So every month, we review that. So we're in June now, so between probably the next couple of days, those numbers will release to the supervisors. And then we'll have 10-day turnaround window to submit all of our findings on each of our employees who mark that they did a consent search. And then we'll have
With that, that's something on the first on supervisor level. They're making sure the officers are following our policy and procedures. As far as us having to review up above, as far as looking at numbers of searches or anything like that, that we do not have to do.
Thank you.
I'm sorry to be annoying. There are a couple people commenting that the audio is really low, like it's hard to hear stuff. So if you guys could just all speak up to the best of your ability, that would be awesome. Sorry to interject. The fans are angry on Facebook.
Does anyone have any more
everyone does get to present on that information. This, where we would like to see this information is the people in the district and area, that you relay this information to them, let them know that this is available for them to go and look at, and they can see it. And anytime you're throwing statistics and numbers, look, there's, like aggravated assault in South Asheville, see three, you see percentage change from last month, 300%. Encourage them to look at the numbers across all the way and look at the previous year and see what the normal average is. You just don't look at the red or green, you kind of look at the numbers and make look at the consistency of the numbers, if that makes sense.
Moving on to unfinished business, an update on a resolution to amend the CPAC membership. Is that,
Should be in the,
is that on the,
For Jerry, the CPAC membership resolution was approved by city council at their May 28th meeting.
and that was just, we were asking the city council to amend the charter, for CPAC and some of the requirements around resolutions. And this can be found in our previous meetings, if you want to review that. The next piece was the mediation framework proposal that, we put up, and in updating CPAC, CPAC's been around for a long time, so we put together, a proposal to bring CPAC, a mediation proposal to allow people to come to CPAC in front of CPAC with the APD and a third party to work through mediation disputes with APD, similar to other cities in the state of North Carolina. That is at the legal department in the city of Asheville for review, because there were a lot of pieces to that, a lot of things for our city to look over and compare to other cities that have those. So it's sitting in legal, waiting on review. And an update on the community discussion hosted by CPAC, Jerry and I actually talked about that just real briefly before this. We wanted to, CPAC to host a community discussion, not a forum, but a discussion with a lot of different groups and the APD, and do that in a facilitated manner so that people can come and feel that, have a place where they can have a discussion with the APD about the issues that we're seeing in our city. It's a big thing, there's a lot of pieces to it, just starting with locations and availability, do those level learning, trying to make contact with everyone, get them together. So we're working on it, and I know Jerry, he comes on with me, and I have a few more. And it'd be really nice to start seeing some reach out in the coming weeks to, a lot of groups and individuals in the community about what this would look like. And so that it's not just us developing the discussion ideas, so it's community development of what this would be, the forum, everything about it. Want everybody to have that vibe. You know, do you have any questions about that? And we are on to new business. National Night Out is August 6th. There's a packet in each of you for your applications to that event. I encourage everyone to look at this. We do this every year. It's just one more way to get involved with APD and some of the things that we're doing each year. Anybody at APD or city want to fill in anything with National Night Out?
So the reason for the packet, the only real reason for it is so that we know which community groups or neighborhoods are participating. Events can be as big or small as you like. Beverly Hills does anything from just a dog walking event to Concrete does a major
involved with the sheriff's office side. And the thing I've noticed is that, I would say sheriff, police, EMS, fire, whatever, when they go, there's a great presence, but they tend to cluster. They talk to each other. And this cluster makes it hard for a civilian to break in and say, I got a question for you. And out of maybe there'll be 10 people, maybe 1 or 2 will be actually working the crowd, going out, how you doing, are you having a good time, would you like to talk about something? And so I request that this get down to the operational level, is to go out and mingle. That would be a big help.
We encourage that each year, not just this, but any community event, to try to encourage our officers, so especially not out of the crime, we'll pretty much have commanders going to each one of the events, the captain, the head chief, I don't know, about 3 or 4 pieces. And that's one thing we do, is we encourage the supervisor to make sure the officers are engaging and not just one big group. So it is something we are aware of. It's not uncommon, but we do try to take steps to stop that. And that's not the first time I've heard that. Hopefully, 2 years from now, maybe we'll hear that complaint less, but that is something we do talk to our officers about, encouraging. We are at these various community events to talk, and we actually talked at the shallow event when we had this CPAC at the shallow community center. All the officers are in one corner, and then everybody else over here. That's one thing we should have done better with that. Thank you.
Well, anecdotally, I just got, one of the coolest things I saw here was in McGuire Park, when they had the, I think it was the LGBT gathering, and there was, some APD, and they're like walking around, but there was one officer who was in the line getting ice cream. And that was the coolest thing I saw, because just by himself, and people were talking to him while he was in line to get ice cream. And it was just sort of like, hey, you're like one of us, cool. And I just thought that was a really, experience.
I would like to say that, engagement would be great, because the trust level of the community, hundreds of, community members that I've spoken with since the last meeting, the trust level is very varied at this point in time. And hopefully with the new, police chief, new city manager, things will change, because the community is looking for change.
Which brings us on to item B, reappointment of CPAC members with expiring terms. A lot of people on there are new or came in last year, but there are 2 members here who have been here for 3 years now, that would be myself and Sean. Both of our terms expire this month. Those are available for reappointment by boards and commissions. I know Shauna has asked for hers to be reviewed for reappointment. I am not, I'm letting mine go, and so this will be my last meeting, on the committee and as chair. And I just wanna say before we get away, a few options for the upcoming, meetings. I wanna say that it has been interesting, to be on this committee. I've seen a lot in the last 3 years on this committee in Asheville, and, I'm glad I've served on this committee. I've seen a lot of professionalism by members in the city government, the APD, and, members of the community stepping up, having their voices heard, taking, being courageous and saying things that people don't like to hear, but need to be said. So I am really glad I've had this opportunity to be on this committee. It's, helped me in a lot of ways to understand policing in Asheville, city government, how these things function, the good, the bad, and everything in between. So, and at the same time, it's gonna feel good to be off here, maybe sit back out in the audience and ask questions from a different chair. So I appreciate everyone. Thank you for your support, in me and voting for me when we had the opening for chair. I really appreciate the opportunity, so thank you. In saying that, since there will not be a chair for the next meeting, there are a few options. One is the committee, at the next meeting, could hold an election and vote for a chair. Right now, our rules of order call for the terms to be 1 year for the chair and vice chair each, and because mine would be ending before my official chair term would be ending, that would create a small inconsistency there that might, you would have to deal with. Another option would be to elect an interim chair for the remainder of my chair term, which is through October for a few months. Serve that out, and Shauna with, I'm assuming will be reappointed to the committee to stay as vice chair, and then October the committee would elect both positions again. The other option is Shauna serving as chair interim while we decide, or while the committee, not me anymore, while the committee decides what to do, given the options there. So I encourage y'all to think about it. Again, have some conversations. Remember, no more that you can't get a constituted forum through email communications, but it's something to think about how you want to do it. Also, be thinking about if you want to be chair on the committee. I know I've seen the chair elected on this committee in the past. I don't know how Sean feels about it, but I did not like the way that those elections went down before we were actually voted in our parts. It seemed very preset. So I don't want to encourage that. I would, instead of 1 or 2 people getting to go behind everyone else and kind of deciding before it comes in, it would be really nice for everyone to think about it. I like the way we did it last time, where people thought about, do I really want this? And come in and talk about it, and then let everybody decide there. Not only does that make it open for all of members on the committee, but also allows everyone to see how the election will take place, and more importantly, how the discussion about who runs takes place. So I encourage that, but it is going to be up to y'all, and I'm sure y'all will think this fine. Does anyone have any questions about that? About the election, chair, options, or anything? Shaking your head, saying.
Just have a wow moment right now.
It's been 3 years for me. I know you just got
You're
here.
tired. I know you are.
Yeah, I'm not tired. I just, 3 years is a long time. And you know, it's different people going on.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, it's good to open up and let different people come in and do different things. And that's where I'm at with it. So I appreciate that. So next meeting, that would be something we'll have to address. Something we want to go forward. describe what they're
Yeah, that's
seeing
fine.
since they're like.
Yeah. But you see patrol cars, and, I called the non-emergency, and they said that was crime prevention. But as I was coming out of Walmart, I saw patrol cars, and I heard gunshots, kind of freaked out a little bit, because I didn't know what was going on. And my question is, if that goes on frequently, can the public be advised of that going on? That location being used, and I was told it was crime prevention, practice, or something along those
The
lines.
one cars are parked out front of the
She
shoe
showed,
shop.
and the shoe show had all the lights off, and blinking lights inside and everything, and I really didn't get any definite answers.
So with this, the way the cars are lined up, I can tell you this is probably a crime prevention, because if it was a shooting there, you would not have the officer back in these parking spaces.
Right.
So with this looks like these officers, I do not know where they were at in this particular location.
Right.
But, is this, the Walmart shop center?
The bleacher.
So with that, we've had a large issue, with, vagrants and camps in that particular area, so it's possible these officers park there and then were on foot in various areas, in that, walking on foot or looking into, concern for the community. Without having any time. I don't know.
Well, it's May 28th.
That, the crime prevention part, and our officers, when they are out on foot, or they are engaging in something which is a known, area that we are, that's what we'll check out the crime prevention on. Make sure that we follow that. All right? Post office,
Okay, so
contact
this
me.
is, Thursday, May 16th, post office. Right across from the health department, all that's located. And all three of those cars were there for one involuntary commitment for a lady who was, already handcuffed and not being combative at all. But, I don't know, I would like, like to approve, patrol cars to, apprehend a lady for involuntary commitment.
So,
So one person has to have his office in the communication and paperwork in hand to go there. But the two officers that involved, we don't always know what's going to happen. Supervisors also required to respond to the same.
And it always involves three.
you get the out 4 or 5.
Involuntary commitment call automatically involves the dispatch of 2 patrol officers and the sergeant or supervisor under me will usually go as well.
And the last one is,
Officer standing, 2 officers standing, somebody leaning.
okay, now the officer on the right is a sergeant. So, and what I ended up asking about was what was that concerning, and it was all for an open container. The gentleman that is leaned up against the car.
Okay.
So in, at the end of the day, and that was about a 30-minute, procedure going on. There was 2 officers to begin with, then there was a 3rd officer, and then the sergeant showed up. And there was nothing that the guy was doing to, I didn't think required that many officers plus the sergeant, or just enough.
What day is this?
This was Tuesday, May 14th.
So, without knowing all the details on particular each case, you said the supervisor told you it was for an open container,
The sergeant,
the
that one.
sergeant is the supervisor on the scene of it for an open container. He's not gonna go into detail with you about that particular case, and so it could be where they were waiting for warrant checks to come back on this, it could be various, it could have been where this was a domestic violence or a case or something, the officer, the supervisor's not gonna tell you the particular case, so it could be where he had an open container, and that's just what the supervisor said, it's an open container. So if we've got multiple officers at the scene, one, we wanna make sure we have enough officers to conduct a thorough investigation, whatever you let us do there. But 2, we also
someone is searched and, like, they get off the bus with a backpack and the officer searches them, would that be covered in the, consent search data also, or is that only for vehicle traffic stops?
Currently, the consent search form we fill out is for traffic stops.
So there's a gap, there's a definite gap there in visibility, when people are being searched, not just like questioned by the police, you know, like, hey, what's going on or something, but an actual search of property.
So with that,
I'm sorry, here, I just want to make sure that it clarifies. There's this gap of visibility if somebody is being searched for anything not including a vehicle that initiates that stop.
all the action for the officer is captured on body worn camera.
Yes, but the public doesn't have view of that body worn camera, so the only visibility we have is data from the website, so I'm just trying to make sure we have that clarity that if an officer, if someone gets off the bus, an officer has whatever cost to search that person, we would not be able to see that in the public if it was just, a search of their property.
Correct.
In the data.
But it is all action for the officer are copies on body worn.
And again, we don't see that, and that's an internal process, and I'm not saying it's your fault, I'm just saying that's the reality you're living in.
That would come into play right about professional safety when they would investigate.
An internal investigation.
Well, to touch on that, as you spoke, the commanding officer wouldn't know to look for that if there's no report, or there's nothing for the public to look at. Because we know that transients or, just people in general, usually of a lower income bracket, are not reporting that they're being harassed by the police. So there's no report there, and then the commanding officer has nothing to look for at the end of that 30 days. And that consent isn't involving the vehicle, so we still have this group of people that are being harassed, and there's no voice, and there's nothing.
There's no
The
visibility.
other way to supervise an officer to be aware of something that's not reported to the traffic stop report, every month, the direct supervisor has to conduct body worn camera audits and car camera audits, and that requires two videos of two officers on site that are random. So they are watching the videos, they don't necessarily capture just traffic stops, or they can capture anything from a call for service, or they just go take a report to an on-street encounter where they can stop and talk to somebody who might have nothing there. It's whatever is available, whatever comes with the randomized one. So we're seeing at least 4 videos a month from our teams to see how they're going about their business on a regular basis. And if we do find a policy violation during the course of an audit, then initiate our own process to investigate it and remedy.
And I guess to touch on that, that's one of those discussions that we've had in the past, is those are your peers that are then on, yeah. Okay.
Here's,
We've talked about that before as to if the community, we asked if the community see body cam, we were told no. And we were asking, when you do an audit and when you find something that needs to be looked at, who's looking at it? And the response was their peers. And that's what we've been told in the past, is that
so
it's
I'm
their
watching
peers.
videos. My
And by peer, I mean even the commanding officer. It's not an outside,
She's like hearing from fellow officers.
Yeah.
That's, yeah, it's completely APD,
So
an internal
nobody
process.
outside.
Yeah,
With
right.
visibility.
And some of that too is falls into play with the North Carolina personnel laws and things along those lines. So it's not set AV policy or whatever, we're limited to what we can do. State North Carolina laws, involving body cam and also personnel.
But there's no limitation about the APD reporting this in a way that the public can at least see how many times searches are going on outside of traffic stops only. Is that a fair
Just
statement?
just in general.
Food for thought for the future. After that, I don't have any regional concerns. Sean, you have any?
There was a regional concern brought to me, but I haven't had a chance to follow the person that actually, it originated from. So I plan on getting in touch with her, but it was basically about, an African-American, group that had a, I don't even know what it was,
3 weeks ago, I had an opportunity to watch my son do this great piece of artwork that he's doing, and he happens to be doing this artwork at this place called The Plug. Now, I'm there and I'm enjoying, they're not serving alcohol this particular night. I'm enjoying seeing young people that I've seen grow up, have a conversation. So it's about 50 people there. They still got the music playing. Everybody's having a good time. So around 1:45, there's 4 police officers parked across the street. There's no fighting, there's no anything. The club's not that out yet. And there's one that's riding around. As my son is up in the car, let's go take a look at downtown. Jack of Wood was letting out. There was another bar that was letting out. There were more people at these specific locations than at the Plug, and there was more activity. There was loudness, there was cussing, there was fussing, but there was no police presence there. There was a police presence at the place where the Black Asheville had showed together that night. So I asked the officer, I had a conversation with the officer, asking why they were there. And I'm sorry I didn't bring the names, I just got off work, I thought I was going to go home and get the file. But one was kind of combative, but I think you guys had an older guy there that actually, kind of calmed him down and let him know that I had, a just right to express my concern with them being there, ready to pull people, ready to stop people, just walking to their cars. And it was the aggression and getting out, putting on the gloves, making their presence known and felt when there was nothing, there was no reason for that. But right around the corner, up the street, I just felt the presence should have been there. So when we talk about this imbalance of presence at places where, and I know about the White House situation, and it was a presence there, and it was an adult prom. Everybody's dressed up, having a great time, nothing going on, but it's like a lot of police there. And he said that we have to be at places where people are letting out just to make sure people are safe. Well, safety, people being safe is not coming out with gloves on, making yourself known to that community without it being known to every other club that's letting out. So there's an imbalance there. And I just, really want to hear, how can we really start? We got to make this in the bud, because there was somebody said last time I was here about we need some type of chaos, some type of situation to happen before we get everybody coming together. My thing is, how can we prevent that from happening by everybody seeing, by everybody looking at the state through equity lens? It's gonna be, 4 police cars at the Plug, that'll be 4 police cars at Jack of the Wood, the Yacht Club, and every other place on that strip.
If you can get the date and time and email me with that, I'll be glad to look into it. The one thing that we don't have, because you said yourself that you were inside the club, so with that, you were inside, we don't know if there was any.
No, I said my son was inside. I was sitting on the balcony. I saw when they pulled up. I saw everything that was going on.
So with that, I don't have the history of that particular night, if there was any other calls, if there was any intelligence, if there was anything that driven us to be there. Without that date and time, if you get that to us, we'll gladly look into it and look. Downtown Asheville is unique in different clubs, and our officers that work night shift and work in the downtown area have picked up on which clubs have a lot of people in them, and it might have some violence that might go up after the club is opening up. And I'm talking, when you said 1:45, I'm assuming in the morning.
Yes.
1:45 in the morning. So by that time, we do try to spread our resources out and about, and if we have had any other previous calls at a particular club earlier that night, that probably is going to be where we're going to put the majority of our resources. You mentioned several clubs, and it's a balancing act that the supervisor has to do Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night in downtown Asheville, is to make sure we have resources where they need to be to try to prevent any violence from occurring. So it is a balancing act. We'll be glad to have further conversation with you. The gloves and the stiffness and not wanting to talk, we should always be able to explain what we're doing and why we're there. And those are some things we'll continue to have a dialogue on. But definitely, you can date and time, and we can follow up on that and dig into it, find out, okay, what led us to being there rather than just one particular event or anything along those lines. Okay, I'd like to follow up. the officers, and hey, learning point for us, we need to make sure we're not coming across that's hostile and things along those lines, so.
I will give the officers credit after the conversation. It was, they were very understanding of how their presence made some people feel. So I will give them like mad credit for the way they handled it, for the way they, conversed with me and let me openly discuss how, the young people were feeling at that time. So they handled it very well, but it was just the first, that initial effect of how.
And one thing too, what I look into is when the officers actually working the street, for the city, or sometimes some of these clubs will hire off-duty officers to be in particular areas or businesses, or hire officers off-duty to sit in a particular area, to prevent violence also. So I don't know if that could be something, I don't know if the club hired off-duty officers, or somebody else hired off-duty officers. I mean, those would be the things that we would be able to look at also. So it could be where the officers were hired and were getting paid by a third party to be there to prevent any violence from occurring, which, if that's the case, the officer should have told you that, but, by all means, give me the information, we'll follow up on it. And in the future, any issues, concerns, if you share with us in advance, and possibly before we come in here, we can have an answer.
Jerry, do you have any?
I don't think it's necessarily just specific for the central area, but just in general, what I've been hearing from folks and seeing around is just a lot of concern about some of the upticks in violence, particularly just violence against women. Just hearing like lots of reports about women being followed in different areas late at night, and just talking to people about staying safe, and just also want to plug our voice and help make for the services that they provide survivors. But just, I think also with the woman that was found behind Move, although that was ruled a suicide, I believe, I think that also just has a lot of people shaken up as well. I know summer comes with an uptick in violence every year in general, but just that sort of particular pattern of some of the stalking behaviors, I think definitely has folks on edge for, solid reason.
Any of those concerns, by all means, encourage people to contact us and report it, follow up on it, investigate it. The female had moved, and then we also had another case that day. That took a life of its own on social media, and we tried to convey there's no truth to it. Added stuff to it. And where they got the information from, I think it turned into a serial killer, serial rapist, and the tragic thing with the suicide. But people took to social media, adding stuff, and other people started adding. Once our VIO went on and put information, and I believe the Citizen Times called and inquired about it, the post went away. So with that, we definitely want to follow up on stuff, and be made aware of stuff and issues that are developing in social media. But if anybody that is any victim of any crime or any stalking incident, anything along those lines, but I think the post turned into people complaining about being stalked at Walmart or something, I believe, on Airport Road. And we've gone through and looked, and there's no reports and nothing found. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but it was not reported to us. And if we don't have the reporting of the crime, we're not gonna be able to follow up on it. So that was the thing. Hopefully we can continue to work on partnerships to give the public to trust us and call us and tell us about this crime and not put it on social media. If they are gonna put it on social media, that's fine, but at least give us the courtesy to call us so we can follow up on it, because what has happened is we've had to put out a lot of fires from that incident, where why somebody spun it the way and direction they did, I don't know.
Yeah, I would just say that in my experience working at the Rape Crisis Center, there is a lot of reports that are made to them about stalking situations that aren't made to y'all, and that's ultimately the
group can contact us on to be able to address, be able to investigate, be able to look into. We definitely want to be on the front end of that as much as possible, so we can, if it's happening, we want to do what we can to eliminate it.
I would add with, I used to work those type of cases and we used to get blind reports. We do track the blind reports. So if there are people coming into crisis centers telling you like there's a stalking issue at this particular business, if that information is never making it to us, even if it's just a blind report, we'll just go like, well, we're getting a report about this same type of person that all these people are encountering. It gives us something that we would take action on to try to put a stop to it, but it just never makes its way to us. There's very little that we can do. So even if we just get a blind report that we can keep track of and see if there's a pattern going on in behavior, we can try to address it.
Okay, so is there some type of confidentiality for a rape crisis, intake person to do a blind report? Or is there a way that APD can have a certain officer that contacts them about, hey,
It's entirely up to them to tell us.
The blind report is available on our Voices website, and any survivor that would go to the Family Justice Center or call the crisis hotline is going to be giving blind reporting as an option along with making an official police report. Because a blind report just goes in that file where they can compare the blind reports, but if you don't have a person's name and like pretty specific information, it can be really difficult to compare those blind reports. Or also there are very few as far between blind reports that are actually submitted in my experience when working there. And so it's hard to create an actual pattern from those. And I think for the most part, our voice really wants to give power and control back to a survivor. So it's ultimately their choice whether they do a blind report or an official report or no report at all. And I think that's probably, I don't work there anymore, so I can't speak for them anymore, but I would assume that their philosophy remains the same about that. But their court advocate is always available to do that with someone, or it's available on their website. But I don't think our voice staff is just going to start like filling out blind reports and giving those to APG for lots of confidentiality reasons.
And we do follow up on, there's several anonymous complaints that come into the Family Justice Center, and we have detectives that follow up on that information, even though we might not have it, we still do track, we still do run information on the suspect. The case a couple of years back where we had several females that came forward with allegations of sexual assault, and we followed them back on the first description, so we followed up on the so anything along those lines that we can follow up on as an agency, we can't do our job if we don't have the information. And that's the part that I want to make sure as an agency, and we build the trust, and we build the communication gaps, and we work on this stuff together, that we form these partnerships where we can work together to eliminate some of these issues. We might not agree on the end result at times, but if we've got people that are living in fear and feel like they're being followed and things on those lines, that's something that is happening in a particular area, a particular business, a particular day, night, time. We've got officers that can be in that area. We've got people we can assign to follow up on those cases, but if we're not getting that information and it's posted on social media, then we're at a disadvantage, because a lot of times social media, when it's posted there, doesn't have all the date and time, it doesn't have all the relevant information, and it takes a life of its own, and it's putting fear in other people, oh, this is going on, and then everybody else is adding to it, people are bringing information in, and there are some people that add information that is totally inaccurate, just to spur the distrust or spur the fear, and that's something I think that hopefully we can find a way to work with everybody, and especially anything that's posted on social media in a quick, fast way that we can identify and see if it's really not, so we can do as an agency to investigate and arrest somebody, to arrest somebody, and comfort.
Data is important. seeing all kinds of examples here, would you like that?
Nothing for this meeting, probably the next meeting I have, some things, talk to a few folks, but there's nothing now.
Look forward to hearing your voice. That will move us on to the public comment section. The public comment section is ordinance per person. Please, I encourage people to use it. The people, the committee members themselves, or they can be, it's not really designed to be a back and forth, unfortunately, for a lot of the same reasons and rules and regulations that are in place. But I do encourage you to speak if you have something to say, so we can hear it and possibly drop a future agenda item or further discussion that we can bring up as a committee. So, in saying that, is there anyone here who would, I'm not a big fan of lists, is there anyone that'd like to speak?
We actually have three on the list tonight, though.
Me? Yeah, I just never, I don't know, I just never liked lists, I just like people, want to, and we can just do it. Please, and if you'll just say your name.
Good afternoon. My name is Dolores Venable. The reason for my public comment today was an article that was written on May the 31st by Asheville Citizen Times. The article was an opinion piece written by 13-year-old Mashante. Mashante, actually her name is Mashante Mills. She's